Hello, welcome to Grosse's Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. The time is 7:31. I call the meeting to order and ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's been a little while since we've been on the air. I'm glad to have some folks back over here. I know that it's been interesting over the summer and everything going on with COVID, so glad to see everyone back. We do have an agenda before us today. It's light. For those of you that do not have it in front of you, we have discussion from Grosse schools, have a quick discussion about Glow Roll and Walk to School Day, and then updates on the Gibraltar Bay Connector and Water's Edge Jefferson Connector. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to the agenda or move from the agenda?
Just a question, Mr. Chair. Do we need to consider officer elections because it's October?
I believe that the officer elections are usually in the beginning of the year, but I could be wrong on that.
I suppose it would depend on when the last time the election was. So if you guys did do it in like the spring, it would still be good for a year. So
I'd have to go back and look at our meeting minutes to see like when the last time that happened, and I'd ask that we look at that, and again, if it's something that hasn't happened in a while, then and the next time that we meet, that we'll have that on the agenda. Anything else? All right, hearing none, ask for a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
So moved.
Okay, so we got Jameson and Wes. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, hearing none. Next thing on our agenda is an update from presentation from Grosse schools. So I know we do have Valerie Orr here to talk about the millage proposal. She'll be talking about it from an educational standpoint, what's on it, as opposed to making a value judgment one way or the other on that. And then we can talk specifically about that, as well as any other opportunities coming down the pike for our commission to work with the schools. With that, you have the floor.
Thank you,
Welcome.
and thank you so much for the invitation to come speak to you all tonight. I sincerely appreciate it. As superintendent of schools, my job is to share factual information with the public so that people are educated voters when they go to the polls. So we at Grosse Schools started a strategic planning process last year. Very in-depth process. We had a lot of stakeholders from the community as well as staff within the district, students, parents, and we engaged in that process to build a 5-year strategic plan for the district to move the district forward. We sent out surveys. You probably all received surveys in the mail from us. We sent out surveys electronically, and we received 1,100 responses, which is pretty significant. I don't know if the commission has ever tried to survey, but getting 1,100 responses is pretty remarkable. So we're just so blessed to have that kind of input from the community, because it allowed us to really understand what this community wants for its children, so we could build a strategic plan based off of that feedback. And with that strategic plan came 3 goals that we're working on. One is to improve the educational experience for all children within the school district, and to really personalize learning for each of them. The second goal is to improve upon our communication with all our stakeholders. That includes all of the community, including folks that don't still have school-age children. We heard it loud and clear in the surveys that there's a lot of people that want to know what's happening in the schools and even want to be engaged with the schools and partner with the schools. And I love hearing that you want to talk about that tonight. And they just didn't know the mechanism to be able to do that. So we have a second goal around improving our communications as well as improving community engagement. And then our third goal is about future-focused learning environment and making sure that we're modernizing our buildings and really providing future-focused learning environments that help our kids be prepared for their future, not the future workforce that you and I walked into, but the future workforce that they're going to walk into. I'm sure you guys have heard the stats, kids that are in elementary school, the jobs that they'll walk into haven't even been created yet. So we really want to make sure that, desks and rows and traditional classrooms and things like that does not prepare kids for a workforce that's based on collaboration, teamwork, perseverance, grit, all of those kind of things. So what I'm here to talk to you about tonight is what came from that third goal and how we developed that third goal of the future focused learning environment. Based on the feedback that we received from the community, we came up with 2 proposals for our one goal, and I'm going to talk to you about those tonight. So both of our proposals total $72.39 million, and they address critical needs and improving district facilities throughout the district. Bond Proposal 1 is for a little over $55 million, and it's focused on critical needs within the district and modernization, and it's also a zero tax increase. Now, that zero tax increase is in comparison to what you're paying in your 2022 levy. So, and I'll go into that in a little detail. When we received those 1,100 responses, what we heard loud and clear from the community is people weren't supportive of paying more taxes. And so we really needed to listen to that, and that's why we worked hard to have Plant Moran Cressa come out, do a facility study, look at everything within the district. They looked under the hood per se, and gave us a facility study that showed us what our needs are going to be now and in the future, so that we don't come back to the community, if we do pass a bond now, that we don't come back to you in 5 years and ask for something else because we were too short-sighted. So we did a full-fledged facility study, and we also did a security assessment where we had security expert come in and look again at all. They looked at the facilities, but they also looked at our policies, our procedures. They talked to staff, they talked to administration, and then they gave us an assessment on the security risks within the district and how we can improve upon those. So we took all that information and we took the most critical projects that we saw, as well as goal number 1, which is improving the educational experience for our kids, and we coupled those together and we prioritized projects and packaged them as Proposal 1 with the no mill increase. Now, within that strategic planning process, we also heard from our families with school-age children how much they wanted us to ask voters to consider improving our athletic facilities as well as our arts facilities, such as the high school auditorium. And in comparison with other school districts, our kids are competing on fields that are much nicer than the fields that we have. And even though Grosse has done their best to, adequately keep up with those fields, there's wear and tear and things that happen, and our kids are at a competitive disadvantage. And so just out of respect for the voices that came out of that strategic planning process, we came up with Proposal 2, which would result in a 1.2 mil tax rate increase over previous year's levy, and it focuses on staying competitive with performing arts as well as our athletic facilities. And obviously the idea there is if we're wanting our kids to compete with neighboring districts, we want to have the facilities that honor that and are able to do that. So we have 4 goals, and I'm going to go into them in a little bit more detail. 4 areas of focus. The first one is district right sizing. Second one is infrastructure improvements. The third one is safety and security, and the fourth one is technology, arts, and athletics. So with Proposal 1, when we looked at the district right sizing, when we were going through that strategic planning process, we looked at the enrollment decline that the district has had over the past several years, and we also looked at Wayne County birth rates moving forward. And we know our enrollment is going to continue to decline. Actually did a presentation at Sacred Heart Church the other day and met with a gentleman. I think he used to be the township supervisor. Wasn't he the township supervisor here in Grosse? Worked in SEMCOG, and he said, it's amazing, Val, how accurate the enrollment projections that he knew from working in, or the birth rate projections were that he knew about working in SEMCOG. So just over the next 5 years, we know our building utilizations will go down to around 60%. So we don't want to keep putting taxpayer dollars or, the limited funds that we get from the state and into buildings that are not being fully utilized. So what the strategic plan committee decided was it would be best to go down to one K-5 elementary school, but they didn't just look at the utilization rates and obviously the savings, but we looked at the academic benefits of moving to one K-5 elementary. So with proposal one, it's going to take Meridian offline. And it's going to add an addition to Park Lane Elementary, and we're going to bring all of our kids under one roof. We're also going to add gym and playground spaces at Park Lane. We want to construct a new outdoor learning area on the Detroit River. Now, when I say that, don't think of a big building or anything like that. We're talking about a platform that's a safe way for our kids to access the water through learning. And it's going to be right in front of the middle school. We own property, waterfront property there in front of the middle school. And we want to create new spaces dedicated to teaching STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and math. As far as infrastructure improvements, we want to take that facility study and take care of all the things that we know we need now and in the future. We want to update our mechanical and our electrical systems, update interiors, including lighting, flooring, and plumbing, and replace roofing that wasn't done with previous bond dollars. So the community did support previous bonds, as you all well know. There was roofing in that, and those projects have been completed. Park Lane needs an entire new roof, and that's predominantly what we're talking about there with roof. When we talk about modernizing the buildings and infrastructure improvements, the best way I can describe that is if I were to describe remodeling of my house. If I were to remodel my house, I would, and want to modernize it, I would, get new cabinetry and new flooring and paint and new hardware and all of those things to give it a fresh, new, updated and modernized look that I can be proud of. But I wouldn't knock out walls or change my floor plan in my house or anything like that. So that's really what we're looking at. It's the best way I could kind of describe what we mean by modernization. So as far as safety and security, we want to upgrade that using that security assessment, the recommendations that came out of that security assessment, including door hardware, access control improvements. What we mean by access control improvements is in my previous district, if there was a door that was propped more than a certain amount of minutes that we could set, I would get a notification on my cell phone as the administrator that we had a door propped and open, and there could be an access risk point for somebody to come in. It's those kind of technology things that are always coming out that we learn about. I don't learn about as a, educator. I have to get the experts in the field to educate me and make sure that I'm doing my best to keep our kids safe. So we really want to take the recommendations from the security assessment and do the things that they told us we should do. We want to build a campus connector road between the middle school and the high school to not only improve traffic flow, but in working jointly with law enforcement. As you guys know, we got a really close relationship with GIPD. We know that if there's any type of significant something that happens with middle school and high school and there's traffic and it happens during that heavy traffic time, our first responders not being able to get through that area, and we know an access road would be able to provide another way to do that. We want to refresh all of our technology learning devices for both students and staff, upgrade technology equipment and our technology infrastructure, invest in new maintenance equipment, food service equipment, and buses. We did move to contracted services with Trinity Transportation last year. That was one of the first things that I had the fun, time to do right when I got here. It's actually working out really well, and we were able to get transportation back online, but it was really important to the Board of Education that we kept our fleet, and that we didn't sell the fleet to Trinity. So the buses that Trinity is using and the drivers, they're still our own, they're still our Grosse drivers, but that's our fleet and we maintain it, and those have a shelf life as well. So we've built dollars into the bond to make sure that we're updating those buses as needed.
To ask you questions?
Yes, please.
So I was just wondering about that connector road between
Yeah.
the middle school and the high school. Is there any details on that and like where that would be, or is what's proposed, and if there's...
So we have some initial work. We have not invested any dollars into architecture services or anything like that outside of the services that we're getting from Plant Moran. until if we actually have the bond pass, because we're using general fund dollars to be able to do that, which is kids' dollars. But we have some basic sketches of what we're looking at, but ultimately, no final decisions are going to be made, because if the bond passes, we're bringing in a civil engineer to help us look at traffic flow, because we need a civil engineer to help us design the traffic around, let's just call it the new Park Lane. We know we're going to have heavier traffic, and we're going to need somebody to help us look at that. So they do traffic studies. So we're going to have them do traffic studies at all of the buildings to help us make the best design decisions that we can.
Related to that, I'd really encourage you to look at a engineer that focuses in on multimodal transportation. So, not just the motor vehicles, but, people walking and biking, or, because I know that currently there's, people that use the path between the middle school and the high school.
Yeah, I do.
And I know.
Even have to, if you want to take French, you have to go to
yep,
the high school
yep.
for your course.
Yep.
So yeah,
What did you call that? Multimodal?
Yeah, multimodal transportation.
Oh,
planning.
okay. So just making sure our walkers and bikers and, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
I definitely encourage someone that has a specialization in that, because it's easy just to say, oh well, people can ride on the sidewalk, or people can go be along the side of the road, but really there's certain people out there that they have the user experience in mind, and they know more so about the best practices and proven safety countermeasures.
Thank you for that feedback. I appreciate it.
Related to that, I know you talked about the elementary school. Is there any plans, or is there any restrictions on what you can do as far as the spending dollars on for getting people to the schools? Because I know that we currently have some safety issues with crossing, and I know one of the things that we're looking at is Church Road, Church and Meridian, and being able to have a better connection over there. And if we're going over to a one school model, Meridian was great because it was right on the bike path. We're losing that, and so we'll have this gap as far as connectivity for people walking and biking to that area. So I didn't know if you're we can only spend our funds on our own public property for the schools, or if it can extend out if it's a logical extension related to transportation or something of that nature.
We can only spend bond dollars on our property. However, and honestly, all of our projects are pre-approved by the state of Michigan, so we can't change any of our projects. We can't swap anything out or anything like that. However, I've been really open and working with Township Supervisor Budney. The school district is open to any conversations and bringing you guys on board to talk about that when we're in those design phases, and to see if there's any partnerships available. Happy to do that. Yeah, absolutely.
I also, the loss of Meridian, when I biked with my daughter there, it was amazing to me how many kids were biking to school there. And all the way from past Kroger. I mean, they were going far in the rain. And I talked to a parent about it, and they said their kid learns so much better when they bike to school. And we know that. Kids with all sorts of learning issues, if they move, physically, very good exercise, they can learn better in school. And Meridian is situated so beautifully for that. When I biked my daughter to Park Lane, I felt it was the most dangerous part of biking on the island because of the parent traffic. And the way Park Lane, not only is it hard to get to from the bike path, there is no sidewalk from the bike path to Park Lane, but the way the parent pickup is currently situated, it is very hard to even get into the school without getting nearly run over every morning.
So all the parking lots, all of that, the whole site of Park Lane is all being redesigned as part of this work. So the current traffic flow and the current pickup and drop off that people are used to right now will not look the same when this is all said and done.
As you were already told, I would love for that redesign to include bikers and walkers, because it is a dangerous time of the morning. The drivers are not looking for bikers and walkers. They're trying to be fast in and fast out.
Thing that's just an idea, and I know it's definitely not a guarantee, but if there's ways that you you can secure easements from local homeowners that said like, hey, I have no problem with my kids, with kids coming from one sidewalk, kind of going in between 2 yards and maybe connecting into like the athletic fields of Park Lane or like some of the other schools. So you're creating multiple entrances, and so maybe you're able to keep people that are walking or biking away from motor vehicle traffic completely. I know that's like it's not a done deal and very simple, but I know that there's many communities across the nation that have looked into that, and some have been successful.
So I can say this, I've never been the superintendent in a community that has these commissions, so just knowing that a bicycle pedestrian advisory commission exists on the island, me as the superintendent would want to tap into that and, use you guys as advisors to help with some of the design when we talk about that to and from. So if you, as an advisory council, are open to a partnership with the school when should these proposals pass and we're looking at that, we'll take all the help we can get in making sure that what comes of this is the best thing we can do for our kids and our families on the island. I need all the help I can get. I'm one person. I've got a great team, but if we have people who care enough to sit on an advisory council about bicycle pedestrian, you know what I mean? You obviously are invested and would love to have you help us out.
Thank you for that invitation. I'm
Yeah.
sure that we'd be happy to.
Yeah, for sure. I know I've presented, and I should have asked at the beginning if you've already seen this presentation. Have all of you seen this presentation? Because I don't want to have you sit through the same presentation. Okay, you haven't seen it.
I have
so.
not. I've
Okay.
seen materials, but I have not seen this presentation.
Okay, then I'll keep going then. I just didn't want to, I just want to be respectful of your time and spend it answering questions if that would have been better spent. But stop me anytime if you have any questions. So there are questions about having a K-5 elementary, even though Grosse did have both Park Lane and Meridian were K-5s, and then they changed the configuration. We're going back to a configuration that existed before. There are still questions from people who are not used to that, and so I put together this slide just to highlight some of the academic benefits and the things that we're looking forward to, being able to bring all of our grade levels together in an elementary model without having that transition. So with having them all under one roof, students are able to learn with other grade levels. We're able to accelerate learning better as well as increase our intervention supports because we're not splitting resources between two buildings. We can have, even with our teachers, we have, the training for early L, K2, and the training for 3-5, upper L, are different specialties and different trainings. So having all those teachers under one roof to work together to help each other out, kids reading, as a second grader reading at a fourth grade level, having the flexibility to allow that child to participate in fourth grade reading groups and things like that. We're looking forward to that. Student mentor programs, it's cute to have second graders mentoring kindergartners, but it's not as valuable as fifth graders mentoring kindergartners. So we're excited about bringing back reading buddies, math mentors, safety patrol, shared support services. This is the one that I tend to highlight the most as a superintendent who works with a limited budget, is how much time our support personnel are spending in vehicles driving from building to building. And that time that they're in their car could be time spent with kids. We have kids, especially post-pandemic here, that have a lot of need, both social emotional need as well as academic need and loss of learning need, that being able to maximize the time we have with these individuals is exciting for us. So I'll give you an example. We have one school psychologist that services all 4 buildings. We have 2 social workers that service all 4 buildings, and they go between 2 buildings all day. We have one elementary PE teacher that goes between 2 buildings, one music teacher, one STEM teacher, elementary. And those people, we have to build travel time into their day. And that's time that we'll now be able to allocate towards being with kids. So we're also going to be able to increase our engagement time. So you talked about the fact that they need to move. Absolutely, we know that as educators. So being able to increase our engagement time with our specials teachers is something that we're looking forward to as well. I talked a little bit about K-5 alignment and then shared staff professional development opportunities. we can't get all of our elementary teachers, unless we have a full day off of school, we can't get all of our elementary teachers together to do any type of professional development because they're running on different bell schedules right now and they're in, different parts of the island. Having them under one roof where we can do cohesive training with all of our teachers it has huge impact for our kids. Proposal 2 is focused on competitive educational facilities. We want to improve both middle and high school athletic facilities, including synthetic turf at the high school stadium and at the soccer field that's located at the middle school. We want to upgrade the high school stadium, so we're talking about scoreboards, press box, seating, everything, fencing, everything at the high school stadium will be new. Update gym and locker rooms at both the middle school and the high school. There were one of the last projects with the previous bond as well as some sinking fund. There was some dollars that were allocated for the high school locker room, but not enough to do a complete gut job, which is what it really needs. So we have those dollars, and we've coupled it with dollars that we allocated within this bond that if proposal 2 should pass, we'll be able to do a complete gut job and actually redesign those locker rooms. We want to upgrade our performing arts auditorium, including audio, visual, lighting, and stage equipment at both the middle school and the high school. I saw a post on Facebook that where somebody had asked about the renovation that they did when they were involved, and I called that person and talked to them. And it was 20 years ago that happened. Things deteriorate over 20 years. Right now, unfortunately, we have to borrow audio equipment from Trenton Public Schools so our kids can have their musicals and their plays. And it's just that kind of issues that we're having that we're hoping for this capital improvement funds come our way. So in terms of the athletic facility concept plan, I know you can't really see this and it's hard to read. I do have copies that I'll give you when that I'll leave for you, but this is also on the website as well. And this is the site plan that kind of just outlines all those things that I talked about, but it also outlines additional things such as new infield turf at our varsity softball field, new infield turf at our varsity baseball field, new dugouts, new asphalt, new protective netting, weight room renovation, new ticket booth, and future multi-purpose space. We're calling that multi-purpose space because we're still working out what we really want for that, but it's located right behind the administration office where the middle school is. And the idea there is we know our middle schoolers need to move, and we're looking at like how do we have big kid recess, and what can we put back there to be able to do that. So that's really what the multi-purpose space is. Here's our project timeline. This, again, I know you can't read it, but it is on our website. And the reason why I want to highlight it for you is that this bond is a 3-series bond. So we know we can't do $75 million worth of projects all at once. That's going to be wasted interest if we were to sell all those bonds and not be able to do those projects. So we package the projects in 3 different series. So the projects that we're going to do are the ones we're going to sell the bonds for, and we're going to do those projects, and then we're going to come back and sell the second set of bonds and do those projects. We have to still be able to run school and have our kids in school. So what that allowed us to do, and the interest savings that allowed us to do, was add a lot more projects for our students. Here's the estimated cost breakdown. Here is local area school districts and the bonds that they've recently passed. Allen Park passed $74.2 million in 2021. Flat Rock passed $30 million in 2022. Grosse Pointe $111 million in 2018. I get a lot of calls about Trenton and Woodhaven, and when our kids go play on Trenton fields or Woodhaven fields, I hear from families that are really discouraged by our fields and what they look like. And I try to tell them that those school districts did not use general fund dollars either to do the kind of updates that they did, that they passed bonds. So Trenton Public Schools passed $57 million in 2018, and Woodhaven passed $144 million in 2020. Woodhaven has done an amazing job with their upgrades. And what I learned is they have a multi-series bond too, and they still have another whole series to do. So they got a lot more upgrades that are coming their way, more than we've even just seen. I understand that there are a lot of proposals on the ballot. People can only afford what they can afford. And so I just wanted to share how the school millage part would look. So right now for school millage, residents are paying 4.39 mils. Should proposal 1 alone pass, that will stay at 4.39 mils. This is a 30-year bond, so it's 4.39 mils for 30 years. If proposal 1 and 2 should pass, that will go to 5.59 mils. The next slide I wanted to provide to show you, because there was some questions that I've received, over the course of my road show or whatever you want to call it. I've done a lot of presentations about how can you keep the millage rate the same and still get $50 million, worth of money to do projects. Well, we don't understand. This is why. Right now, those 4.39 mils is split between 2 bonds. One for 1.5 mils that was election date of 2006, and it was refunded in 2015. That's expected to end in 2032. 2016 bond for 2.89 mils has an expected payoff of 2028. So what we're going to do then is spread the money out over, we're going to collect that same amount of mils, 4.39, but spread the payments for the 3 different bonds that will go out. And then folks are also paying the sinking fund of 0.9781. So I know I'm talking to people within township, so this is, you guys understand how bond monies can be spent, but just for anybody who listens in the public, bond proceeds can only be used for construction and remodeling, purchase of technology, equipment, and infrastructure, site improvements. It cannot be used for staff salary and wages. We can't use it to lower class sizes. We can't use it for general operating expenses, repairs, or maintenance. And we can't use it for classroom supplies, textbooks, or administrative costs. What's the difference between a bond proposal and a sinking fund? Bond proposals are used to finance major capital projects like I've talked to you today, and we borrow money by issuing bonds and then paying back using the taxpayer millage to pay that debt over time. Where sinking funds are tax revenue that we collect on an annual basis to address more immediate needs. And really it's kind of like our safe haven to be able to keep schools open. So the best example I can give is if I'm working on my house and I want to put an addition on, I would use a bond. However, if my furnace goes out, I'd be able to use sinking fund. So if we have a furnace or a boiler go out in the dead of winter, because we have that sinking fund in place, we're able to use those dollars to get it fixed, replaced, whatever, and keep our kids in school and not have to close school. This is where and when to register to vote. And then before I do Q&A, I just wanted to share, this is all of our bond information is on our school website. We have links that you see there to the bond brochure. We also have a link to the actual ballot language, and it kind of talks about, puts it in more layman's terms about what you'll actually see on the ballot. It also has a bond tax calculator so folks can see what 1.2 mils will actually be for them. I know that the median market value of a home on Grosse is $300,000. So I usually tell people that 1.2 is about $180 a year, $15 a month. However, if you don't have a house with a market value of $300,000 and you want to know what that 1.2 mils will do to your actual dollars out of pocket, you can use that bond tax calculator. The other thing that's on there is an FAQ. As I do these presentations and I get asked questions that I wasn't asked before that I think other people might also want to know, I add it to the FAQ, repost it, and then you have that there. So with that, I'm happy to take any more questions that you might have.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I'll defer to my fellow commissioners over here because I've been vocal already, so I don't know if anyone's been silent that has some questions.
The Meridian Elementary School, if you close it, what's the
Plan for that site?
for that building, the site?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for asking that. Usually remember to talk about it. The building is planned to be demo. We're still talking about the gymnasium because we want to make sure that we don't demo a gymnasium that we might still need or the community needs. So again, I want to keep the conversation open with the township. We do have bond dollars set aside to make sure that site, we're not planning on selling it. There's no plan to sell it at this time. We want to just take a breath and see what the future needs of the district are after we do all these bond updates. But the money that we have allocated is not just for demo, it's also to make sure that that site is not left an eyesore for this community. So we've got a little money in case we need ball fields or we need a picnic shelter. We don't know yet. That'll be part of the design when we bring a design team together to talk about what's the best use of that site. But right now, the board wants to take a break. We, as a leadership team, want to take a break, let things play out, and see what the future needs are for our kids. Please. Which one? Both of them? Okay. We haven't had that conversation. Like I said, we're looking at 60%. We can't close it because we can't move those kids to Park Lane without an addition. So we'd have to have a real serious decline in enrollment to have that conversation. But I mean, it is still has 400 kids in it right now. Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
So I think it sounds like your presentation is comprehensive, and it sounds like the plan is as well, which is great because it's always good for government to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. I particularly appreciate that the school is taking a hard look at security. That's just super important these days. Other than that, would you send me that presentation when you get a chance? I could shoot you. Actually, I think you have my email.
This one right here?
Yes.
It is on our website.
Okay.
Yep.
Great.
So
I'll
you
go
can. I'm
pull
happy to
down
send
off
it to you, but it might be just as easy for you to get a link. Yeah.
I actually was looking at the website, so I just didn't see that.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Actually, it is the video that's at the bottom is me presenting the presentation for anybody who's not able to come to something like this. So.
Okay.
But the slides itself, I'm not. Let me make sure if the slides are not on just by themselves without being a recording, I'll make sure I get it to you.
And then stepping away from the millage proposal for a second, the declining enrollment is very likely a result of township policies that date back to the 90s, when there were significant concerns about the population of Grosse exploding to like 50,000 before the year like 2015. So the leaders of Grosse at the time did a really great job hedging against that through things like open space program, larger lot sizes, single family homes, which has also increased property values and has resulted in essentially pricing young families out of starter homes here by and large. So to address, and like I said, stepping away from the millage for a second, to address that, I think that the school and the township need to start working together to try to find means to maybe not increase our enrollment, but at least stop the loss of retention. Because I'm sure there is eventually a make or break point. So, and that's just my thought, laying the groundwork for a stronger relationship with the township and the school. So, other than that, I really appreciate your presentation today.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. And obviously, I can't speak to anything prior to my arrival in Grosse in July, and certainly can't speak to anything regarding the township. But what I can speak to is the school district's openness and willingness to have a partnership with the township. In fact, we already have one because we now have interns that have been placed in the township, and they intern here at the township. And that's actually our first work-based learning location that we were able to place kids, and that was through help with working with Mr. Budney and Derek and getting those kids here. So you've got our kids that are interning here right now, so we want to continue that relationship. One thing I didn't mention, if you could just give me 2 more seconds if you don't mind, I want to talk about the why we believe the turf fields are a need and not necessarily a want. And it's I talked about other school districts and what they have, but I don't want to leave this presentation without talking about what I mean by a competitive disadvantage of our kids. This is, you know, asking the community to support these athletic field upgrades is not just about, you know, having as good as facilities as other districts and wanting to retain kids. Obviously, you know, that's definitely on our mind. But the first time our marching band kids touch turf is when they're in a competition. Anytime they have not practiced on a turf field until they're competing, and they're competing against all the other marching bands that are practicing daily on marching on turf. Our kids can play more and practice more and play longer and practice longer and use the fields more if it's turf, because we're not dealing with weather conditions. Right now, the MHSAA does not select Grosse to host regional districts. We really try, but they're always going to pass us up to go to places with better facilities. Yeah.
In my personal experience, and I haven't looked at the research on it, when my daughter plays on turf, the team seems to get more injuries, more things like broken wrists. She also comes home with plastic bits all over her shoes and socks, and she's then obviously breathing these things in as well. Has any study or research, have you looked at safety of turf?
I actually have a document that I'll send you. The concerns regarding injuries with turf were a lot. I mean, I'm hearing it now with you right now, but everything I've heard and everything we've looked at and gone through, the concerns with turf and injuries came out of when turf was first being installed in schools. They've changed how they use it, what products they use, and they've significantly upgraded that. Right now, we have a lot of injury. I shouldn't say a lot. We have injuries because we have holes and pots and things like that within our field. So, you know, but I do have a document that'll give you some more information. I know right where it is, and I can send it to you tomorrow, and I won't forget. Pitchers mounds, even being able to keep up the pitchers mounds. Our coaches do a great job of really wanting to instill in our kids that they need to take care of their homes. So we have a state championship soccer team, and they're out there taking care of the fields, but they can't take care of it enough with weather conditions in Michigan to get it to where it needs to be for it to be the best competitive, you know, surface that they can have. So it's just things like that. As to why when our families were asking us to, you know, at least try, it is why we ended up putting a second proposal on, because I get asked that a lot. Why didn't you just, first of all, why didn't you put out one proposal? Why did you break it up into two? The reason for that is we want, as a district, we want to listen to our community, and our community was very responsive in telling us that they didn't want to increase their taxes. So we needed to make sure at least one proposal was a no mill increase. And then the other reason is again, like I said, we thought, well, what it's not going to hurt to try, and it's my job as a superintendent, our coaches and our you know, athletic director and our team's job to help the public understand, you know, why we're asking for the 1.2 mil increase. So thank you. Yeah, it's not. So we have been very working with Plant. We actually, through Plant Moran, hired a specialist that works only on sports and athletic fields. So when they did that track, they made sure at that time that should they ever be able to get turf, that they would have enough distance and all of that. So we're going to be able to put protection over the track when we do construct the football stadium. I was just in a meeting last week about what that would actually look like. It's pretty cool. Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yep, we will have protection over the track, and I'm so glad you asked that, because I need to add that to the FAQ. I'm sure other people are wondering about that as well, so thank you for asking that.
So first, a comment related to what Jameson was talking about as far as, you know, the township and the school district working together. I serve on another commission, the Planning Commission, and we are currently investigating about doing a master plan update.
Okay.
And so for folks not familiar with what a master plan is, it's, it's basically, a blueprint for how we want to grow Grosse or stay the same. It goes out into the future. And so it has not been updated in over 20 years. And I've been a firm advocate of saying, hey, we need to be smart with the way that we grow, and similar to what Jameson has said and others, is like we need to be able to be accommodating of all walks of life, from that standpoint of being able to not only cater to people in their middle years where they have large families, but be able to cater to folks that are just starting out. And so we're not pricing out our young folk. Similarly, having places for people to stay when their kids are grown, and like maybe they still want to stay in Grosse, they don't want to be aged out. So be able to provide more accommodations for seniors. And so generally with the master plan, it specifically looks at land use, but I'm really trying to encourage more of a holistic view, and view this as like a vision for Grosse and bring in multiple parties. And so again, I just wanted to make you aware of the potential
appreciate
master
that.
plan update, and we would definitely encourage you to be a part of that.
I would love to. It sounds a lot like our strategic plan process that we used last year. It was a solid year of really creating and building that vision for what our school district, what it's going to look like, and the needs of our kids, and how we're going to serve our kids. And sounds like the same thing with how you're going to serve the community. So I appreciate that invitation, and I'd be happy to myself or one of my teammates be a part of that.
A couple more questions. One is about Meridian, and I'm sure maybe this is already an FAQ, but I knew that there was ballot initiatives in the past, and there was work that was done on Meridian because it was sinking. The foundation was not there. So is that continuing to happen? Is there another reason why you're looking to close Meridian, or is it structurally sound from that standpoint? I know you're talking about demoing at least part of it if with the millages passed. So I didn't know, like, structurally, is it like still unsound from that standpoint, that you're throwing good money after bad?
We have kids in that building right now that people send their kids to every day. So
Including one of mine.
Yeah, so you have no worries as far as the safety of your kids. We have monitoring equipment on those, and I never can say the word right. What kind of piers?
They were helical piers.
Helical piers. So we have to monitor, if they move at all. So all that monitoring is being done. Really, the decision, what we looked at is if we were to continue, if we kept Meridian online, when we did that facility study, we were looking at about $10 million worth of continued capital improvements needed with that building, and we just didn't, for a building that's going to be 60% occupied, it didn't seem like a good, steward of people's money.
One other question related to that is, I know with all three of my daughters, we've participated in Lego robotics over the years.
Yeah.
So my oldest is in high school now. She just started freshman. I have a seventh grader that did in the past, and now my fourth grader. She's
Do you
just
want to be
starting
the
up
middle
with that.
school robotics coach? Because we're looking for one.
I don't know that much about robotics. But,
Oh, well, your
I'm
kids can help, yeah.
But anyways, I know that we were looking for space to actually like practice like over that time, and I'm assuming that there's lots of other clubs and things. So I didn't know if there was a thought of keeping the building open, like with like minimal like staff to make sure that it's secure and safe from that standpoint, but to be able to be used for like multi-use space, for clubs or other things related to the township.
You mean keep Meridian open for that reason?
Yeah.
It's always a conversation. I don't think we'll be able to keep the whole entire building. I mean, if we do, we've got $10 million worth of work that'll need to be done.
Gotcha.
We do have money in the bond, though, to create a STEM lab at both the middle school and the high school, which right now I went to a robotics competition. It's amazing what our kids can do, and they're in a retrofitted practice space right now. I totally know what you're talking about. We are going to create a STEM lab in the high school, so they will have that space. We're going to create a STEM lab at the middle school, and then we're going to create maker spaces at Park Lane, which is where kids are tinkering and practicing that engineering cycle and thought process. Sure.
I had a few more questions. So you mentioned that the professional development, one of the benefits of a unified K through 5 is professional development. With no delayed starts, when do teachers in elementary do professional development now?
Like right now?
Yeah, right now.
So they have job embedded PD time in their day right now. So they meet once a week during their planning time to do professional learning communities. They just do it by grade level right now. So if we ever wanted to pull them together, we would need that whole common time.
Because you're right. So there is no common time in the schedule right now where that would
Yeah,
be possible.
we have half days. We still have half days, but again, the half days are different because they're on different schedules, so they're times. So we do professional development when we have there's certain half days as well.
And then you also mentioned that one of the benefits of a unified would be that an advanced child could go to a higher grade course. So if there's an advanced fourth grader now, are there any taking fifth grade math?
Yeah, we have WIN right now. My son did it last year. So in all of our, in our elementary schools, we have WIN time, which is what I need time. And that's the time that the kids are, they'll go to their different groups and work on whatever grade level expectations they need to be working on, whether it's current grade level, below grade level, or above grade level. So that's happening right now, in our elementaries.
So a fourth grader could go and join a fifth grade class.
Not a fifth grade class. We're talking about individualized learning groups.
Okay, but so that wouldn't make a difference if they were all in the unified building or not?
It would, because right now we have third grade in one building and second grade in another. So I'm talking about, you're saying go into a classroom. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we can pull groups of kids and do small group instruction with multi-level, multi-ages if they're physically located in the same building.
So a group could be learning fraction addition, and they could have first graders, third graders, and fifth graders all in
They
that group
could,
learning
yes, if those
fraction
kids were
addition.
ready and prepared for it. Mhm. That's part of the personalized learning and competency-based education. That's a part of our strategic plan that you can see in our strategic plan. Mhm. Thank you for your time. I know you have your own meeting, so I appreciate the invitation and hope I was able to answer some questions for you.
Thank you so much. All right.
This is a hard copy.
Awesome.
So,
Thank
and
you.
then if I could just leave those here. Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. You're going to do an update about Glow Roll. So Christine is not here, but Christine was the lead on that. I did not mention it, but she is excused tonight. She was outside, with the Witch Wives, practicing, for the Halloween parade coming up. And related to that, she had worked, with the Witch Wives, so BPAC were able to partner with them in order to put on a safe glow roll on Macomb Street, as well as, with a starting at the high school. So around 100 people did show up for that. And so it was pretty successful, very thankful. No one, there was no injuries or anything from that standpoint, as far as I know. And so it was successful, and we'll be working with the DDA on how to partner and make that event more successful in the coming years. Was anyone else able to attend that event? Okay.
I was not. I wanted to. I forget what came up, but I did report about it on the township board. So, just trying to get the glow roll media snowball going. So,
Appreciate that. Next is about Walk to School Day. So again, a successful partnership with the PAT. So the PAT had purchased 10 $5 gift cards for the Grosse Bakery, and there was walk to school events at both elementary schools, and so kids would get a ticket if they walked or biked to school, and they were entered into a raffle for those events. Like past years, there was more participation at Meridian than Park Lane. I think some of that is based on the environment. Another part might be, again, the age of the children. Folks that are, kids that are older, their parents are probably more confident with them being able to walk or bike to school on their own from that standpoint. And I know that Meridian consistently has bikes at those bike racks almost year round. So again, successful on that. I don't have any specific numbers, but I'll see if I can find out anything else. But anecdotally, it was very similar to past years. Does anyone else have an experience with Walk to School Day they'd like to share? All right. Moving on, Gibraltar Bay Connector. So this is a project that we've been working on, with the airport manager as well as township managers, and we're hoping to be able to move a fence along the airport property in order to utilize a service road as a primitive bike path, connecting our existing bike path on on Grow Road with the wildlife refuge at Gibraltar Bay. So we did get some bids for those. Those came in high, and so we're planning to rebid that project in the springtime. So hopefully those numbers will be a little bit lower at that time, and we can move forward with that project. Last item I have as far as updates is for the Water's Edge, Jefferson Avenue connector. So this would be a sidewalk that would connect from Meridian, down Bellevue Road, go past the Golf and Country Club, and connect into Water's Edge, and then go down West River and go up the West River connector in order to connect into the Grosse Free Bridge sidewalk. There is a concurrent effort going on in the city of Trenton in order to include a sidewalk on the other side of the bridge that will connect into Jefferson Avenue. So we do have plans associated with those as far as engineering drawings, and so we need to get the township board as well as work with the recreation department and reach out to the Grosse Golf and Country Club to ensure that there's consensus on this. And once we have that, ask the township board to pass a resolution in the support of the designs, as well as recognizing that should funding be available to construct it, that Grosse would take ownership of the sidewalk, and so it'd be Grosse property as opposed to the Downriver Link Greenways, which has been helping fund the engineering study for this so far. So we have a little bit of work ahead of us as far as to make sure that all the parties are satisfied with this. But again, good news, and hopefully coming out of this, we'll be able to proceed with finding funding for construction.
So what's the next step on that?
I think that the next step would be to reach out and have meetings with the recreation department because of the sidewalk going by their property, as well as to reach out to the Golf and Country Club, make sure that both of those parties are that they are appreciative of the property, and then from that standpoint, we would bring it to the township board to make a resolution.
Okay. So we just need to schedule a meeting with rec?
I think so. I think that'd be the first step.
Okay.
All right, that concludes all of our updates over here. Is there anything else that anyone would like to add before we make a motion for adjournment?
Just a quick addition. It's October, and typically I don't know if you guys usually do this, but on most commissions and the board, there's some brief Open Meetings Act reminders. So I just have a quick couple of highlights. I'm sure everyone here is familiar with the Open Meetings Act, but it's just good practice to kind of go over a couple things. Please remember that our normal meeting schedule must be posted 10 days ahead of time. It does not need to contain an agenda, but people need to know 10 days ahead of time for a regularly scheduled meeting. Obviously, emergency and special meetings can deviate from that. The purpose of the Open Meetings Act is that all of our discussions and decisions are made in public, so there can be no secret votes or secret ballots. We should endeavor to televise the meetings. Draft minutes must be available within 8 days of the conclusion of the meeting and approved at the next regular session. And on this board, because of the verbiage that establishes it, a quorum is 4 members. It can't really be less than that because it has to be a majority of the board. But in the case that there is only 4 members present, a majority of those members present is 3. So if there were only 4 of us here, 3 people would be required to pass any resolutions. And if a resolution ties, it fails because the term majority is how we carry resolutions. So if there's 6 of us here and 3 people vote for something, it's not a majority and it doesn't go forward. And that is the 50,000 foot view of the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you. I do have one question for you related to that.
Mm-hmm.
In the past, all of our meetings were televised, unless for some reason there was a need for a study session or reason otherwise. In the past year or so, it was requested that we not televise our meetings as often. So I think it was 3 or 4 times a year that we televise our meetings. So,
Do you know
given
what the purpose of not televising was?
I think it was to save on costs.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that since this board could meet quarterly, that we could do like a more focused meeting during the televised one. But it does say in the Open Meetings Act that not only can residents record and televise meetings, but that we should endeavor to do so as well. I think the intent of the act is that you get as much public involvement as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But I can look into that some more if you like, if you're looking for some specific.
It's not mandated if you're asking.
Right, yeah, we can't, they don't have to.
I don't mean to just jump, I'm sorry,
Mhm.
I thought you were looking for the answer. There is no state mandate to televise
Mhm.
meetings. There's the mandate to have the meetings, and they are open to the public, and as Jameson stated, that you can, like an individual could come tonight and let's say this wasn't televised. They can record anything at an open meeting. There's no reasonable expectation of privacy, but nothing's mandated that you have it.
So, Joe, I'm not sure how much more you're going to talk. If you were going to, continue to talk, I'd encourage you to come up to the microphone because no one on TV could hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I was just trying to give you, I apologize.
I appreciate you jumping in over here. So yeah, if you feel like repeating, or summarizing what you said before, that's great.
Yeah, there was a question of, I think, is it mandated though, even though you don't have the meetings televised? There is no state mandate to televise them. They encourage it. And of course, the Open Meetings Act, just like the Freedom of Information Act, it's the same thing. It's they want people to see it. And, it's the same thing with that, with getting information from a government entity. But there isn't anything that mandates you must. So if you guys do it 4 times a year because you have something going on, great.
Okay.
I mean, or something, Jameson, like if you guys have something big going on, I don't mean to say other times it's not big. Everything is important to you. I get it. But let's say you want the most people seeing it, then you can have it on. But it isn't mandated that it must be. That's why a study session and a meeting, they don't televise, and it's a cost issue. Even though, just like we're going to have a study session is our next board meeting, it's still a board meeting, but they don't have to televise it
Mm-hmm.
because it's not mandated. So,
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. And yeah, I know from experience that what we try to do is, if we are not televised, those are more just, again, study sessions. We're trying to figure out what to do as far as individuals coordinating with other parts of the township, or just doing some grunt work. Like that's the type of stuff that doesn't need to be televised. When we're going to actually talk about a subject that requires some debate and discussion purposes, if there's going to be any specific votes, or again if there's information that would be helpful for the public to see, that's where we try to televise those. And so again, if it makes sense to, we try to stack that type of information to be every 3rd meeting or something like that, so that way
it's understandable. It's what you guys feel as a commission, what you think's important. I mean, and you're the bosses of this commission, and you're the chair. And I believe, just being a trustee, that you have that right to perform in the manner in which you see fit for the community. So,
thank you.
sure.
That concludes public comment.
I had another one that was,
Sure.
actually came from public comment.
I apologize. I did not do open public comment at the beginning,
I'll
so
stop.
no,
Okay,
no,
It's a long meeting.
this is it. So if you got something,
Yeah, can I just come
Sure.
You have to
Let's
say your
thank you
name now.
guys. Number one, first I want to say,
Say
I
your
didn't want
name.
to say I've been watching you on TV because I couldn't find you all the time, and now I see why. 'Cause it's not always on TV. So I wanted to come down to see you. I've been seeing some of the different meetings and commission meetings, and I watch a lot of them on TV, but I try to hit every so often, like a DPS meeting, and I'm on the police commission now, so obviously I'm there, or a fire commission meeting to see it. But you guys do a wonderful job, and I have to say that what an asset to the community these paths are. And if you look at, and if you really took a survey, I would promise you that if they said, what's the number one asset that we have and had out here and continue to have, and what's on the top of people's, their own personal programs, if you will, it would be the bike pass and the connectivity. And you guys do a wonderful job, and I just say thank you and keep up the work you're doing, because, it started, maybe Brian, because, I was a police officer for a total of 36 years, but I remember when they were putting them in. I remember when they started, and it was just a fantastic asset. It really was. And I know we have many assets. Please, I'm not downgrading any other one, but if you look at really, I think what's on the people's list, I really think this is about number one. And if it's not, it's right up there. It's right up there. So thank you very much for what you do. Can I make two comments?
Sure.
It was on, actually it was on one of your questions. And I did some research also on the schools, on the millage issues, and on the fields. And 20 years ago, there was a different type of turf. And there was a thing called turf toe, and they were actually getting turf injuries all over. And you are absolutely correct. The foundation that they used, and I know you're an engineer, so you know that when they put a different foundation, they were using this hard asphalt. It was just and some of it was almost like a concrete. And what they were putting on top was a mess. And that's why University of Michigan changed over due to the total number of injuries. Now, if you read what kind they're doing, everything is evolving. They have a new type of, I don't know if it's a poly, not urethane or carbonate, it's a poly something or other that they're using, and the foundation is different. So they're starting to do their testing, surveys, and of course you got to go through the years, not just 1 year at a time, but it does appear that it's so much better. Now, I don't know if that helps. I'm not pro or con for this right now. I'm just
Better according to previous turf or better to natural fields?
Actually, they showed the new turf, not the old turf, has less than the natural fields because of the geographical problems of a natural field still. They're getting ankle injuries. They're getting things like that. Now, they're not getting turf toe, and they're not getting things like that, and they're not getting, I did not read about more broken bones or anything like that. I didn't find that anywhere. But they did say because of the way the grass is and the way, unfortunately, you can only keep it up so well. It's not University of Michigan Stadium where you have hundreds of thousands of dollars a year just to keep up the field and flatten it every game when they're done. We don't do that.
It's in limited space. Our virtual fields allows the athletic department to practice on the team field. You can't really do that on a turf field. You can't practice 4 days a week and have a game on a Friday, especially if we have a wet fall and if we have a football team. On a turf field, it won't make it through the season. The new artificial turf is no longer put down on a concrete or asphalt base like the original turf.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is put down on a 21AA compacted. It might as well be concrete. It is very, very, very hard. And it's the level of pulverized rubber that's put into it that gives it a little more cushion versus the old astroturf. And what I've seen and read is that the
Yeah, well, thank you, Wes. I had not seen what I looked up. I did not see in the new surveys, and again, because it's newer, and I don't know, maybe you would know, like, how many years has the new surface changed? It hasn't been that long. And they're,
First one in 2004.
and they're trying to get, and there's even upgrades from there. There is upgrades from 4, because I read that. And they are trying to get that level of, and try to track it. And what I did see is the total number of injuries has gone down. So I'm not, obviously I'm no expert, I just researched it. That's all I did, but I just wanted to bring that up to you, what I found. Because I looked it up for myself too, because I knew that there was college stadiums that changed over. And again, they have, you know what they can do to a stadium, they can fix it in a day, and make it right. So, but anyway, I just wanted to add that to you, but thank you. Thanks, Wes.
Yeah, thank you for that information, and thank you for the kind words about our commission. Greatly appreciate those. And
Very welcome.
There's great work happening on the police commission, and definitely encourage us to talk a little bit more too, because I know that there's ways that we can coordinate, like on, for example, it's getting darker outside, and so we need people to be, when they're walking, to be illuminated, and when they're riding a bike at night, they need to have bike light, and preferably a rear bike light. And that's one of the reasons why I like the glow roll, because it kind of encourages that through a very fun positive
They have to have the right
event.
equipment, yes.
But I know in the past we've had partnerships with the police, and being able to secure bike lights that we could give away. I'd like to continue that moving into the future, because I think everyone's going to need a reminder of hey, what you need to do to be responsible as it's getting darker sooner in the evening.
Well, Brian, here's what I'm going to tell you. Now being the liaison to the police commission, you've got my phone number, I hope. You call me anytime if there's something, if you need to talk to, Doug Carmack, the chief, or you want to go through, the administrative end, feel free to call me, and I want the relationship. Let's just say this. I want it to be an excellent relationship. That's all I'm going to tell you. How
Awesome.
about that? And we're working to get it back the way it was. That's all there is to it.
Awesome.
Okay?
Well, thanks again. Appreciate you coming out
and
tonight.
Thank you for your time. You
And-
guys do a lot, and I really mean that.
We encourage you and anyone that's interested to come out to any of our meetings. We're happy to have you, whether we're on the air or in a study session. In a study session, it's a lot easier for us to be more organic with our conversations, and we'll definitely include anybody in that's interested. And
Well, it was time for me to come and see the show live, It was definitely time. I haven't been to a beat. I mean, it's been a few years. It's been a while. There's no doubt in my mind. So thank you again, though.
thank
You
you.
guys have a good night.
All right. With that, can I get a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Jameson and was it Al? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Thank you, everyone. Walk, bike, drive safe.
Thanks for